If you let my mother die, I will kill everyone you've ever loved. The words came from the doorway, delivered in a voice so cold that Kioma Okafor's hands froze on the IV line. She turned slowly, her heart hammering against her ribs, and found herself staring at a man who looked like violence wrapped in an expensive suit. He was tall, devastatingly handsome in a way that felt dangerous, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that held absolutely no warmth. Two men in black flanked him, hands resting inside their jackets in a way that suggested weapons. The temperature in the private hospital room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Excuse me?" Kioma's voice came out steadier than she felt. 6 years as a nurse in Lagos had taught her to handle aggressive family members, but something about this man was different. The air around him vibrated with barely contained rage. "My mother." He stepped into the room, and the fluorescent lights seemed to dim in his presence. "The woman dying in that bed because your incompetent hospital can't do its job. If she takes her last breath tonight, you take yours tomorrow." Kioma's eyes flicked to the elderly woman in the bed. Mrs. Han's monitors were stable for now, but the cancer ravaging her body was winning. Stage 4. Metastatic. The chart had given her days at most. This wasn't something Kioma could fix with better nursing. This was biology running its inevitable course. "Sir, I understand you're upset, but threatening medical staff won't change your mother's prognosis. The cancer has spread to her liver, her lungs, her brain. We're keeping her comfortable, but there's nothing more we can do medically." She kept her voice professional, clinical, even as her mind screamed at her to run. His jaw clenched, a muscle twitching beneath skin that looked carved from marble. "Then you're not trying hard enough. Minjun." The voice from the bed was weak but sharp. Mrs. Han had opened her eyes, and despite her frailty, her gaze carried the weight of authority. She spoke in rapid Korean, her tone chiding. The man, Minjun apparently, responded in the same language, his voice dropping to something that almost sounded pleading. Kioma used the moment to check Mrs. Han's vitals. Blood pressure dropping, respiratory rate increasing. Pain levels were through the roof, even with the morphine drip at maximum safe dosage. She'd seen enough deaths to recognize the signs. Hours, not days. Maybe less. Mrs. Han switched back to English, her eyes finding Kioma's. "You are the night nurse. What is your name?" "Kioma Okafor, ma'am." "Nigerian?" "Yes, ma'am, from Lagos originally." Something flickered in Mrs. Han's expression. Interest, maybe, or recognition. "You have kind eyes. My son does not. He gets that from his father." She coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made Minjun move to her bedside instantly. His hand found hers with a gentleness that contradicted everything about his earlier threat. "Iyama, don't talk. Save your strength." "For what? Dying takes no strength at all." Mrs. Han's smile was wry despite her pain. She looked at Kioma again. "How long do I have? And do not lie to me, girl. I have been lied to enough by the other doctors." Kioma hesitated. Honesty was usually the best policy, but with her son looking like he might actually make good on his threat to kill her entire family, maybe this was the time for gentle euphemism. "Tell her." Minjun's voice cut through her thoughts. "My mother deserves the truth." Kioma took a breath. "The cancer has progressed beyond what we can treat. Your organs are shutting down. Based on your current decline, I'd say you have less than 48 hours, possibly less than 24. The room went silent except for the beeping monitors. Minjun's face had gone completely blank, which somehow felt more terrifying than his earlier rage. One of the men by the door shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Han nodded slowly. "I knew. I felt it." She squeezed her son's hand. "Minjun, I need you to listen to me. Iyama, we can get you to Seoul. Better doctors, better treatment. I can have a plane ready in an hour." "No." The word was final. "I am tired, my son. I have fought this long enough. It is time to let go." "No." His voice cracked. "I just got you back. After father died, after everything, I finally got you back. You don't get to leave me too." Kioma felt her chest tightening. Beneath the expensive suit and the death threats, this was just a son watching his mother die. She'd seen it 1,000 times. Grief made people say terrible things, do terrible things. It didn't excuse his behavior, but it explained it. "Mr. Han," she said quietly, "can I speak with you outside for a moment?" His eyes snapped to hers, cold and evaluating. For a long moment, she thought he might refuse. Then he nodded once, squeezed his mother's hand, and followed Kioma into the hallway. His guards stayed behind, but their presence felt like a weight even through the closed door. The corridor was empty, the night shift running on skeleton crew. Kioma crossed her arms, partly defensive, partly to stop her hands from shaking. I need you to understand something. Your mother is dying. That's not because this hospital is incompetent or because I'm not doing my job. It's because cancer doesn't care about money or power or how much you love someone. It just destroys. There has to be something. His voice was low, dangerous. Experimental treatments, clinical trials. I have unlimited resources. And your mother has hours, maybe a day at most. There's no trial that works that fast. No miracle cure. She softened her voice. What she needs now isn't medicine. It's you. She needs her son to be with her, to make her comfortable, to let her go with dignity and peace. I don't accept that. You don't have a choice. His hand shot out and gripped her arm. Not painful, but firm enough to be a warning. I always have a choice. Kioma should have been terrified. She should have called security, should have screamed for help. Instead, she met his eyes steadily. Then choose to give your mother what she actually needs, instead of raging against something you can't control. I've watched a lot of people die, Mr. Han. The peaceful deaths, they happen when the family lets go, when they stop fighting and start loving. He stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. His grip on her arm loosened but didn't release. Who are you? I already told you. I'm the night nurse. No. His eyes searched her face. Who threatens a man back when he's just threatened to kill her family? Who looks at me like that without fear? Oh, I'm afraid, Kioma admitted. I'm terrified, actually, but I'm also right, and you know it. Your mother knows it too. That's why she called you out in Korean. I don't speak the language, but I know a mother scolding her son when I hear it. Something almost like a smile ghosted across his face before disappearing. He released her arm. You're brave. Foolish, but brave. So I've been told. She rubbed her arm where he'd gripped it. Now, are you going to let me do my job? Because your mother's pain levels are increasing, and I need to adjust her medication. You can either stand here making threats, or you can go back in there and be with her. Before he could respond, a sound came from the room, a soft cry. Then the monitors started alarming. Kioma's training kicked in immediately. She burst back through the door with Min Jun right behind her. Mrs. Han was seizing, her body rigid, eyes rolled back. The guards had backed against the wall, clearly out of their depth. Kioma moved fast, checking airways, adjusting position, hitting the call button for backup even though she knew the night shift was stretched thin. What's happening? Min Jun's voice was raw panic. Seizure. Common in late-stage brain cancer. I need you to step back and let me work. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, administering anti-seizure medication through the IV, monitoring vitals, talking in a low, calm voice even though her own heart was racing. The seizure lasted 45 seconds. When Mrs. Han finally went still, her breathing was labored, her consciousness diminished. Kioma checked her pupils, her responses. The end was coming faster than she'd predicted. Is she? Min Jun couldn't finish the question. Not yet, but soon. You should talk to her. She can probably still hear you. He moved to the bedside like a man in a dream. His hand found his mother's again, and he spoke in Korean, his voice breaking. Kioma stepped back, giving them privacy while still monitoring the equipment. This was the part of nursing they didn't prepare you for in school, the part where you watched love and loss collide in real time. Mrs. Han's eyes fluttered open, unfocused but aware. She said something in Korean, and Min Jun shook his head violently, responding in the same language. The conversation went back and forth, urgent and pained. Then Mrs. Han's gaze found Kioma. You, she whispered in English. Come here. Kioma approached the bed. Mrs. Han's hand, the one not clutching her son's, reached out trembling. Kioma took it, feeling how cold the skin had become. Death was in the room now, patient and inevitable. Promise me, Mrs. Han said, each word an effort. Promise you will take care of my son. Iama, no, Min Jun started, but his mother cut him off with a look. He is alone, has been alone since his father died. He needs someone who is not afraid of him, someone with a good heart. Her grip tightened with surprising strength. Promise me. Kioma looked at the dying woman, then at her son, whose face had gone carefully blank. This was insane. She'd met this man 20 minutes ago, and he'd threatened to kill her family. But there was something in Mrs. Hahn's eyes. Desperation, hope, a mother's final wish. "I promise I'll make sure he's not alone tonight," Keoma said carefully. It wasn't quite what Mrs. Hahn asked for, but it was all she could offer. Mrs. Hahn smiled. "Good. That is good." Her eyes closed. "Minjun, I need you to do something for me. Something important. Anything, Iama. Marry this girl." The monitors beeped steadily into the shocked silence. Keoma's mouth fell open. Minjun looked like he'd been struck. Even the guards by the door shifted uncomfortably. "What?" Minjun finally managed. "You heard me. I want you to marry her. Promise me. Promise me you will not spend your life alone and angry. This girl, she sees you, really sees you. She did not run when you threatened her. She stood her ground. She is strong. You need strong. Iama, you're not thinking clearly. The medication." "My mind is perfectly clear. This is my dying wish. Will you refuse me?" Mrs. Han's voice gained strength from somewhere, the force of a lifetime of getting her way. "Promise me, Minjun. Promise me you will marry Keoma Okafor." Keoma wanted to protest, to explain that this was crazy, that people didn't promise to marry strangers. But Mrs. Hahn's monitors were showing what Keoma already knew. Minutes now, not hours. And sometimes you gave dying people what they needed to let go in peace. Minjun looked at his mother, then at Keoma. His expression was unreadable. "I promise, Iama. I will marry her." Mrs. Hahn smiled, satisfied. "Good, my good son. Always so good." Her breathing changed, became shallower. "I can see your father. He's waiting for me. He looks so handsome, just like I remember." "Iama." Minjun's voice broke completely. "I love you, my son. Be happy. That is all I ever wanted." Her hand went slack in Keoma's grip. The monitors flatlined. Keoma immediately started compressions, but Mrs. Hahn's eyes had already gone fixed and dilated. Minjun caught her wrist, stopping her. "She has a DNR. Do not resuscitate. She wanted this." Keoma stepped back, breathing hard. She'd known this was coming, had prepared for it, but it still hit her. Death always did. She reached over and silenced the alarms, then gently closed Mrs. Hahn's eyes. The time of death was 2:47 a.m. For a long moment, no one moved. Minjun stood frozen, staring at his mother's still face. Then his shoulders started to shake. No sound, but his whole body trembled with grief he was clearly trying to contain. Keoma did something she'd never done before with a family member. She reached out and touched his arm. "I'm sorry for your loss." He looked at her, and his eyes were devastated. Lost. Then, before she could react, he pulled her into his arms and buried his face against her shoulder. His whole body shook with silent sobs. Keoma stood there, shocked, as this dangerous man who'd threatened her life fell apart in her arms. Her training said to maintain professional distance. Her humanity said to hold him while he broke. She chose humanity. Behind them, one of the guards cleared his throat. "Sir, we should go. The arrangements." Minjun pulled back, wiping his face with the kind of efficiency that suggested he was already rebuilding his walls. When he looked at Keoma again, his eyes were dry but red-rimmed. "You made my mother a promise, and I made her one too. Mr. Hahn, that was just to give her peace. You don't actually have to. I don't break promises to my mother." His voice was flat, final, especially not her last one. "You're going to marry me, Keoma Okafor, whether you like it or not." Before she could respond, he walked out of the room, his guards following. Keoma stood there in the sudden silence, next to a dead woman, wondering what the hell had just happened to her life. Welcome to Archie Love Stories, everyone. Thank you for joining us on what promises to be an incredible journey of love, culture, and unexpected fate. If you're new here, we bring you premium Afro-Korean romance stories like you've never experienced before, filled with passion, danger, and connections that defy all logic. Before we continue with Keoma's story, drop a comment below and tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love knowing our global family is growing. Now let's see just how serious Minjun is about keeping his promise to his dying mother. Keoma didn't sleep. She couldn't. After completing the paperwork for Mrs. Hahn's death and handing off her other patients to the morning shift, she sat in the staff break room with cold coffee and trembling hands. Her phone buzzed for the 15th time. Her younger sister, Ada. "Chi, where are you? Your shift ended an hour ago. Kioma stared at the screen, trying to find words to explain what had happened. How did you tell someone that a dying woman had forced her son to promise to marry you? That the son in question was clearly dangerous, clearly wealthy, and clearly serious about keeping that promise? I'm fine. Just a difficult night. Patient died. The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I'm sorry, come home. I made Jollof. Home. Their tiny apartment in Surulere, the place she shared with Ada and their cousin Ngozi, the life she'd built carefully over 6 years of nursing, saving every naira, sending money back to their parents in Enugu. Normal. Safe. Hers. The break room door opened. Kioma looked up and felt her stomach drop. Min Jun stood in the doorway, looking exactly as devastated and dangerous as he had 3 hours ago. He'd changed clothes. The suit was different, still expensive, still black. His eyes were red-rimmed but dry. Behind him, the same 2 guards from earlier blocked the exit. "We need to talk," he said. "Mr. Han, I'm very sorry about your mother, but it's Min Jun, and we're past the point of formalities, don't you think?" He moved into the room, and Kioma instinctively stood, putting the cheap plastic table between them. "My mother's body is being prepared for transport back to Seoul. The funeral will be in 5 days. You'll attend as my fiancé." "I will not." Kioma's voice came out stronger than she felt. "Mr. Han, Min Jun, whatever. I understand you made a promise to your mother, but she wasn't thinking clearly. The pain medication, the stress, she wasn't in her right mind." "My mother's mind was perfectly clear." He pulled out a chair and sat down like he owned the place. Maybe he did. Kioma had no idea how far his money or power reached. She knew exactly what she was doing. She always did. "You can't seriously expect me to marry you. We don't know each other. I don't even know what you do for a living beyond having enough money to afford a private hospital suite." Something flickered in his eyes. "What do you think I do?" Kioma thought about the guards, the expensive suits, the casual way he'd threatened her life, the way the hospital staff had practically bowed when he walked through. Nothing legal. Smart girl. He leaned back in the chair, studying her. "My family runs import-export businesses, shipping, logistics, real estate, all perfectly legitimate on paper." "And off paper?" "Off paper, we control most of the Korean organized crime operations in West Africa. My father built an empire. When he died 3 years ago, I inherited it, along with all the enemies, all the debts, all the blood." He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. "Does that frighten you?" "Yes." There was no point in lying. "It terrifies me." "Good. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you alive." He pulled out his phone, tapped something, and slid it across the table. "That's your bank account, correct?" Kioma looked at the screen and felt her heart stop. Her account balance had 7 new zeros. "What did you do?" "Bride price. Consider it a down payment." "I didn't agree to be your bride." She shoved the phone back at him. "You can't just buy me." "I'm not buying you. I'm fulfilling my mother's last wish and compensating you for the inconvenience." He pocketed the phone. "The money stays whether you cooperate or not. Call it payment for making my mother's last hours peaceful." Chioma's mind raced. That amount of money could change everything. Pay off her parents' debt, send Ada to university, get Ngozi the surgery she needed. It was more money than she'd make in 10 years of nursing, but nothing was free, especially not from men like Min Jun. "What do you really want?" she asked quietly. "I told you. I want to keep my promise to my mother." "Nobody keeps promises like that." "Not really. There's something else." He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming on the table. "My mother was the last good thing in my life. The last person who looked at me and saw something other than a criminal or a weapon or a means to an end. When she got sick, I brought her here, away from Seoul, away from the family business, hoping the distance would help. It didn't. I'm sorry, but that doesn't explain. She told me once that I'd forgotten how to be human, that I'd let the business turn me into my father, and my father was a monster who just happened to love her." He looked up, and the raw pain in his eyes made Kioma's breath catch. "Maybe she thought you could remind me, or maybe she just didn't want me to be alone. Either way, I made a promise. So I'm supposed to what? Marry you, play house, pretend we're in love?" For 6 months. Public appearances, family events, the funeral. After that, We divorce quietly. You keep the money, go back to your life, and I can tell myself I honored my mother's wishes. 6 months. Keoma did the math. 6 months of pretending to be engaged to a Korean crime lord. 6 months of living in whatever world he inhabited. 6 months of danger, but also financial freedom, security, everything she'd worked for, handed to her. I need to think about it, she said. You have until tomorrow. I'll send a car to pick you up at 8 p.m. We can discuss the details over dinner. And if I say no? Minjun stood, buttoning his jacket. Then I'll be very disappointed, but I won't force you. My mother wanted you to choose me, not be threatened into it. He moved toward the door, then paused. Though I should mention that the money transfer is irreversible. Whether you agree or not, you're now a very wealthy woman. Think carefully about what that means. He left before she could respond. Keoma sat back down, her legs suddenly weak. She pulled out her phone and checked her bank account, not really believing it until she saw the numbers herself. It was real. All of it was real. Her phone buzzed. Ada again. Chi, are you okay? You're scaring me, Chioma typed slowly. Can you and Ngozi meet me at Mama Ife's? I need to talk to both of you. Something happened. The response was immediate. On our way. Mama Ife's was a small buka near their apartment, the kind of place where you could get good food cheap and nobody asked questions. Keoma arrived first, ordered 3 plates of jollof rice and plantain, more out of habit than hunger, and tried to organize her thoughts. Ada arrived 10 minutes later, her younger sister's face creased with worry. At 22, Ada still had the optimism Keoma had lost somewhere between their father's accident and 6 years of night shifts. Ngozi came right behind her, limping slightly from the hip injury that had ended her dancing career. What happened? Ada demanded, sliding into the booth. You look like you've seen a ghost. Worse. I think I just got proposed to by a Korean gangster. Ngozi choked on her water. You what? Keoma told them everything. The death threat, Mrs. Hand's dying wish, the promise, the money. Her sister and cousin listened with increasingly wide eyes. Let me get this straight, Ada said slowly. A dying woman made her crime boss son promise to marry you. He put millions in your account, and now he wants you to pretend to be his fiancé for 6 months? That's the summary, yes. And you're considering it? Ngozi asked. I don't know. It's insane, dangerous, probably illegal in some way I haven't thought of yet. Keoma pushed rice around her plate. But that money could change everything, for all of us. Ada reached across the table and grabbed her hand. Chi, you've been taking care of us since Papa's accident. You dropped out of university to work. You send money home every month. You deserve something for yourself, not more sacrifice. This isn't sacrifice. This is a business arrangement. With a man who threatened to kill your family, Ngozi pointed out, a man who, by his own admission, runs organized crime. Chi, this isn't some romantic drama. This is real danger. I know that. Do you? Ngozi leaned forward. Because I've seen what men like that do. My ex was connected to some bad people. Not as bad as your Korean gangster probably, but bad enough. They own everything they touch. Everything. You think you can just walk away after 6 months? He said what you wanted to hear. Men like that always do. Ngozi's voice was urgent. Please, Chi, whatever he's paying, it's not worth your life. Ada was quiet, worrying her lower lip. Finally, she said, What did you promise his mother? Exactly? Keoma thought back. I promised I'd make sure he wasn't alone that night. Not that. You'd marry him. Not that you'd be with him forever. Just that night. Ada nodded slowly. And you kept that promise. You held him when he cried. So technically, you've already done what she asked. His mother asked more than that. She made him promise to marry me. She made him promise, not you. Ada squeezed her hand. Chi, I love you. If you want to do this, if you think it's worth the risk, we'll support you. But don't do it for us. Don't sacrifice yourself again, thinking it's what we need. Keoma looked at her sister, then at Ngozi, then down at her phone where the impossible bank balance still glowed. What if it's not sacrifice? What if it's opportunity? Opportunity for what? Ngozi asked. I don't know yet, but that man, Minjun, he's dangerous. He's probably done terrible things. But when his mother died, he broke, completely broke. And for just a moment, he was human, vulnerable, real. Keoma traced patterns on the table. His mother said he'd forgotten how to be human. Maybe she was right. Maybe that's why she did this. You think you can save him? Ngozi's voice was gentle but skeptical. Fix him? No, I'm not that naive. But maybe I can survive him. And maybe surviving him is worth millions of naira. Or maybe he destroys you, Ngozi said quietly. Maybe. Chioma met her cousin's eyes. But I've been surviving on scraps my whole life, working myself to exhaustion for barely enough to get by. This is my chance to have more, to be more. And yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's probably stupid. But I'm tired, Ngozi. I'm so tired of just surviving. Ada's eyes were wet. Then do it. But promise me you'll be careful. Promise me that if it gets too dangerous, you'll run. I promise. Ngozi shook her head but reached over and took Chioma's other hand. We're going to regret this, but if you're doing it, you're not doing it alone. We're family. That means we stick together, even when one of us makes spectacularly bad decisions. Despite everything, Chioma laughed. It felt good to laugh. Is that what this is? A spectacularly bad decision? The worst, Ngozi confirmed. But at least you'll have a great story. They ate their jollof rice and talked about practical things. What Chioma would wear to meet Minjun tomorrow, how they'd explain the sudden money to their parents, what Ada would study if she could finally afford university. Normal things, grounding things. But in the back of Chioma's mind, a countdown had started. 22 hours until she saw Minjun again. 22 hours to decide if she was brave enough or foolish enough to walk into a Korean crime lord's world and pretend to be his bride. Her phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. The car will arrive at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Dress nicely. We're going somewhere that requires elegance. Minjun. Chioma stared at the message. No question mark. No, if you agree. Just the assumption that she would. The arrogance should have made her angry. Instead, it made her curious. Who? Was this man really? Beyond the threats and the money and the grief? What kind of person kept a promise to a dying parent that extreme? She typed back, I'll be ready. Ada saw the message and raised her eyebrows. So you've decided? I've decided to have dinner. I'll decide the rest after. But Chioma knew she was lying. She'd already decided. The moment Mrs. Han had gripped her hand and asked for her promise. The moment Minjun had broken in her arms. The moment she'd seen that impossible number in her bank account. She was going to do this. God help her, she was actually going to do this. The black Mercedes arrived at exactly 8 p.m. Chioma watched from her window as it pulled up to her building, sleek and expensive and completely out of place on their potholed street. Children playing football stopped to stare. Mama Rashid from downstairs came out to her balcony, arms crossed, openly gawking. You look beautiful, Ada said from behind her. She'd helped Chioma pick the dress, a simple but elegant navy blue number they'd found at Balogan Market. It was the nicest thing Chioma owned, and she still felt underdressed for whatever world she was about to enter. I look terrified, Chioma corrected, checking her reflection one more time. Her braids were freshly done, her makeup subtle. She looked like herself, just polished. She hoped that was enough. You can still change your mind, Ngozi said, but her voice lacked conviction. They all knew the decision was made. Chioma grabbed her purse, kissed both of them on the cheek, and headed downstairs before her courage failed. The driver was already waiting by the car, a young Korean man who bowed slightly when he saw her. Miss Okafor, I'm James. Mr. Han sent me to collect you. The interior of the Mercedes smelled like leather and money. Chioma sank into seats softer than her bed and tried not to feel like she'd stepped into another universe. James drove in silence, navigating Lagos traffic with the kind of aggressive efficiency that suggested he'd been doing this a while. They left Surulere behind, moving into Victoria Island where buildings grew taller and streets grew cleaner. The restaurant was called Chrysanthemum, tucked away on a quiet street with valet parking and a doorman in white gloves. Chioma had walked past places like this before, but never imagined going inside. Miss Okafor, the doorman greeted her by name. Mr. Han is waiting in the private dining room. Of course he was. Men like Minjun probably always had private dining rooms. She followed the hostess through the main restaurant, past tables of Lagos elite eating food she couldn't pronounce. The private room was at the back, separated by rice paper screens that filtered the light into something soft and intimate. Minjun stood when she entered. He'd changed too, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt open at the collar. Without the suit jacket, he looked younger, less intimidating. almost normal if you ignored the dangerous energy that seemed to follow him everywhere. "You came," he said, and she heard genuine surprise in his voice. "You didn't think I would?" "I thought there was a 50-50 chance you'd take the money and disappear." He pulled out a chair for her. "I'm glad you didn't." Keoma sat, hyper-aware of how close he was, the scent of his cologne, the way his hands looked, pulling out her chair with surprising gentleness. "The money's still there. I checked this morning, multiple times. I don't make empty promises." He returned to his seat across from her. "Did you tell anyone about our arrangement?" "My sister and cousin. No one else." "Good. Trust is important, but discretion more so. In my world, information is currency. The fewer people who know our business, the safer you are." A waiter appeared with wine, poured it without asking, and disappeared just as quickly. Keoma sipped it and tried not to think about how it probably cost more than her monthly salary used to. "So," Minjun said, watching her with those dark, unreadable eyes, "have you decided? 6 months as my fiancé in exchange for financial security and freedom afterward?" "I have questions first. I expected nothing less. Ask." Keoma pulled out her phone where she'd typed her list. 1. Where would I live? 2. What exactly would be expected of me? 3. What happens if I want out before 6 months? 4. How dangerous is this, really? And 5. Why me? You could hire an actress, a model, someone who actually belongs in your world. Minjun leaned back, considering. "You'll live with me. I have a penthouse in Ikoyi, 3 bedrooms, so you'll have your own space. Your sister and cousin can visit any time, though I'd prefer if they didn't know everything about my business." "What about my job?" "You'll quit. A fiancé to someone of my status doesn't work night shifts at a public hospital. But if you want to work, I can arrange something at one of the private clinics my family owns. Better hours, better pay, less chance of someone trying to hurt you to get to me." The casual way he mentioned someone hurting her made Keoma's stomach turn. That's really a possibility? "I have enemies. People who'd love to find a weakness they could exploit. A sudden fiancé out of nowhere? That's a weakness. Which is why you need to be protected, always. Security detail, limited public exposure, careful vetting of anyone new in your life." "That sounds like prison." "It's survival." His voice was matter of fact. "As for your third question, if you want out, we negotiate. I'm not a monster, Keoma, despite what you might think. If you're genuinely miserable or in danger you can't handle, we find a solution. But understand that walking away won't be simple. Once people know you're mine, they can't unknow it." The possessive language should have bothered her more than it did. Question 4. How dangerous is it, really? Minjun swirled his wine. "Honestly, more dangerous than your current life, less dangerous than you're probably imagining. I don't bring violence home. My business is handled away from where I live. But yes, there's risk. There's always risk when you're close to someone like me." And question 5. Why you? He set down his glass and looked at her directly. "Because my mother chose you. Because you didn't run when I threatened you. Because you held me when I broke and didn't ask for anything in return. Because you're real in a way most people in my life aren't. My mother saw something in you that she thought I needed. I'm starting to think she was right." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. Keoma had prepared for manipulation, for smooth lies, for whatever criminals used to get what they wanted. She hadn't prepared for honesty. "I need one promise from you," she said quietly. "One real promise. Not about marriage or appearances or any of that." "What?" "Promise me that you'll never lie to me. Not about the danger, not about your business, not about anything. I can handle the truth, even if it's ugly. What I can't handle is being kept in the dark and blindsided." Minjun studied her for a long moment. "That's a dangerous promise to ask for. Some truths are safer not knowing." "Then let me decide what I can handle. Promise me honesty, and I'll promise you 6 months." He extended his hand across the table. "I promise complete honesty, even when you wish I hadn't told you." Keoma shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and the moment their skin touched, something electric passed between them. She pulled back quickly, unsettled. "So we have a deal?" he asked. "We have a deal. 6 months, starting after the funeral. I'll play the devoted fiancé, attend your events, live in your penthouse. After 6 months, we divorce quietly and I go back to my life. With enough money to do whatever you want with that life." Yes, she met his eyes, with enough money to never have to depend on anyone again. Something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe, or recognition. You're more like my mother than I realized. She valued independence above almost everything else. Their food arrived, Korean dishes Keoma had never tried before. Min-jun explained each one, his voice taking on a different quality when he talked about his mother's favorite recipes. She learned that bulgogi reminded him of childhood, that his mother had made kimchi every autumn, that food was how his family showed love when words failed them. My father never said he loved us, Min-jun said, moving meat around his plate. But he'd bring home my mother's favorite persimmons every week, drive across the city to get them from a specific vendor. That was his language. What was yours? Keoma asked. How did you tell your mother you loved her? I didn't. Not enough. I was always too busy with business, with proving I could run the family operations, with being what my father had groomed me to be. His jaw tightened. I thought I had more time. Everyone thinks that. It's human nature. Is that what you tell yourself? About your parents? Keoma blinked, surprised he'd turned it on her. What about my parents? You send them money every month. I had you investigated, remember? You're supporting your entire family while barely surviving yourself. When was the last time you actually saw them? 2 years ago. I couldn't afford the trip to Enugu and the money I would have spent traveling they needed for other things. And you don't resent them for it? They're my parents. Family takes care of family. Even when family takes and never gives back. There was something bitter in his voice. Is that how you feel about your mother? No. She gave everything. I'm the one who took. He pushed his plate away. I'm the one who inherited my father's empire and all the blood that came with it. I'm the one who got so caught up in maintaining power that I forgot what mattered. And now she's gone, and I can't fix it. Keoma reached across the table and touched his hand. You kept your promise to her. You're here with me right now because of her last wish. That counts for something. Min-jun looked at her hand on his, then up at her face. Does it? Or am I just assuaging my guilt by dragging you into my mess? Maybe both. People are complicated. Motives are complicated. But your mother knew who you were, all of it, and she still loved you. She still wanted you to be happy. That has to mean something. You sound like her. She used to say things like that. Find the good even when everything looked dark. He turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. Thank you for agreeing to this, for not judging me, for being here. The moment felt too intimate, too real for what was supposed to be a business arrangement. Keoma pulled her hand back gently. When do I move in? Tomorrow, if you want, or we can wait until after the funeral. Your choice. Tomorrow. No point dragging it out. She took a breath. But I need to pack, say proper goodbyes, explain things to my family. Take whatever time you need. I'll send people to help you move. He pulled out his phone. I'm texting you my personal number. You need anything, day or night, you call me directly. Not my assistants, not my guards, me. Why? Because you're about to become the most important person in my public life. And despite how this started, I don't want you to feel like a prisoner. I want you to feel like a partner, even if it's temporary. Keoma's phone buzzed with his message. She saved the number, feeling the weight of what she was agreeing to settle over her shoulders. Tomorrow, she'd leave behind everything familiar. Tomorrow, she'd step into a world of private dining rooms and security details and dangerous men with sad eyes. Tomorrow, she'd become Min-jun Han's fiancé. God help her. Moving day came too fast and too slow. Keoma stood in the empty bedroom she'd shared with Ada for 6 years, looking at the bare walls where their posters used to hang. Everything she owned fit into 3 suitcases. Somehow that felt both liberating and desperately sad. You don't have to do this, Ada said from the doorway, even though they both knew it was too late for second thoughts. The moving van Min-jun had sent was already loaded. 2 of his men waited downstairs, polite but alert, scanning the street like they expected an attack at any moment. I know, Keoma zipped the last suitcase, but I'm doing it anyway. Ngozi appeared behind Ada, arms crossed. We did some research. Min-jun Han's family is connected to the Sinbuk clan. They control shipping routes from Busan to Lagos. Rumors say they're into everything from legitimate imports to weapons trafficking. Chi, this man is serious trouble. I know that too. Do you? Ngozi moved into the room, because knowing it in theory and living it are different things. These people don't play by normal rules. You can't just quit if you change your mind. He said I could, if it becomes unbearable. And you believe him? Chioma thought about Minjun's eyes when he'd promised her honesty, the way he'd held his mother's hand while she died, the brokenness she'd witnessed that first night. Yes, I think I do. Ada hugged her tight. Call us every day. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you run. Money isn't worth your life. I'll be careful, I promise. The drive to Ikoyi took 40 minutes through Lagos traffic. Chioma watched her neighborhood disappear in the rearview mirror, replaced by wider streets, bigger houses, walls topped with barbed wire and broken glass. Wealth in Lagos always came with security, but this was different. This was fortress living. Minjun's building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel, with a lobby that looked like a hotel. The security was intense, 3 checkpoints before they even reached the elevators. Everyone who worked there knew her name, greeted her with careful respect. Miss Okafor, Mr. Han's fiancée, the woman who'd somehow captured Korea's most dangerous bachelor. If only they knew the truth. The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Minjun met her at the elevator, dressed casually in jeans and a black t-shirt. It was strange seeing him like this, domestic almost, less crime lord, more regular person. Welcome home, he said, and the word felt strange in his mouth. Home. The space was beautiful in that minimalist way rich people seem to prefer. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Lagos Lagoon, sleek furniture in blacks and grays, art on the walls that probably cost more than Chioma's entire education. It was stunning and cold, and nothing like the cluttered warmth of the apartment she'd left behind. Your room is this way. Minjun led her down a hallway. I had it prepared based on what my assistant said you might like. If you hate it, we can change everything. He opened the door and Chioma's breath caught. The room was huge, bigger than the entire bedroom she'd shared with Ada. A king-sized bed with soft white linens, a desk by the window, a reading chair in the corner, and on the nightstand a small vase of purple orchids. My mother's favorite flower, Minjun said quietly. I thought you should have some. The gesture was so unexpectedly thoughtful that Chioma felt her throat tighten. It's beautiful. Thank you. Your bathroom is through there. Walk-in closet too, though I suspect it's much bigger than you need right now. He moved to the window. We'll need to get you new clothes. The kind of events we'll attend require a certain look. I have clothes. I know, and they're fine for normal life. But this isn't normal life anymore. He turned to face her. I'm not trying to change who you are, Chioma, but I need you to look the part. Designer dresses, jewelry, the works. It's armor as much as appearance. Armor against what? Against people who'll look for any weakness to exploit. In my world, how you present yourself matters. Looking uncertain or out of place makes you a target. He pulled out his phone. I have a stylist coming tomorrow. She'll take measurements, discuss your preferences, build you a wardrobe. Everything gets charged to me. Chioma wanted to argue, to insist she could dress herself. But he was right. She had no idea how to navigate his world. Okay. The funeral is in 3 days. We fly to Seoul tomorrow night. You'll need a passport. I have one. I got it 2 years ago thinking I might travel someday. She laughed bitterly. Never actually went anywhere. Where did you want to go? The question surprised her. I don't know. Paris, maybe. London. Places I'd seen in movies but never thought I'd actually visit. We can go. After the funeral, after things settle. Consider it part of the arrangement. He checked his watch. I have a meeting in an hour. Make yourself comfortable. There's food in the kitchen, or you can ask any of the staff. They've all been briefed that you're to be treated with the same respect as me. Staff? How many people work here? In the building? Security, cleaning, maintenance, maybe 20. In the penthouse directly? Just Mrs. Park. She manages the household. You'll meet her at dinner. He left her alone in the massive bedroom. Chioma sat on the bed, testing its softness, and felt overwhelmingly out of place. This wasn't her life. This was someone else's life that she was borrowing, trying on like an expensive dress that didn't quite fit. Her phone rang. Ada. How is it? Her sister asked immediately. Huge. Beautiful. Terrifying. Is he there? He just left for a meeting. Ada, there are orchids in my room, his mother's favorite flower. And he's sending me to Seoul for the funeral. I need a black dress appropriate for Korean Mafia royalty, and I have no idea what that even means. Breathe, Chi. You've got this. You're the smartest, strongest person I know. I'm a nurse from Surulera who's in way over her head. You're a nurse from Surulera who saved a dying woman's last moments and impressed her crime boss son enough that he's actually keeping his promise. That's not nothing. Kioma lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. What if I can't do this? What if I mess up and embarrass him, or worse, make his enemies think he's weak? Then you deal with it. But Chi, maybe stop assuming you'll fail. Maybe give yourself permission to succeed. After they hung up, Chioma unpacked her 3 small suitcases into the massive closet. Her clothes looked lost in all that space. She arranged them carefully anyway, hung her few dresses, lined up her sensible shoes. It was something normal to do in a deeply abnormal situation. Mrs. Park turned out to be a tiny Korean woman in her 60s, with sharp eyes and surprisingly perfect English. She appeared at 6 with a tray of food and a no-nonsense attitude. Mr. Han says you prefer Nigerian food, but should try Korean. So I made both, jollof rice and bulgogi. You eat both. Tell me which you like better. She set the tray on the dining table like a challenge. Kioma liked her immediately. Has Minjun told you about our arrangement? He told me you're his fiancé and I should make you comfortable. The rest is not my business. Mrs. Park poured tea with precise movements. But I knew his mother. She was good woman. Good judge of character. If she chose you, you must be special. She barely knew me. Sometimes knowing takes only moments. Sometimes it takes years, and you still know nothing. Mrs. Park smiled. Eat. Food gets cold. The bulgogi was delicious, tender, and savory in ways Kioma hadn't expected. The jollof rice was perfect, seasoned exactly how her mother made it. She ate both, surprised by how hungry she was. Minjun returned at 8, loosening his tie as he walked in. He looked tired, the kind of exhaustion that lived in his shoulders. How was your first day? Surreal. Mrs. Park is amazing. This place is beautiful. I'm still terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He poured himself whiskey from the bar. We need to establish some ground rules about boundaries, expectations, what this actually looks like day to day. Okay. He sat across from her, drink in hand. First, your bedroom is yours. I won't enter without permission. This may be fake, but I respect your privacy. Thank you. Second, in public, we need to look convincing. That means physical contact. Holding hands, my arm around you, maybe kissing for photographs. I'll never push you into anything you're uncomfortable with, but we need to sell this. Kioma's stomach flipped at the thought of kissing him. I understand. Third, I need you to trust my security team. If they say something's dangerous, listen. If they tell you to move, move. They're not being controlling, they're keeping you alive. How often am I actually in danger? Honestly, probably never. Most of my enemies are smart enough not to start wars over personal matters, but probably isn't certainly, and I won't risk you. You barely know me. Why do you care so much? Minjun was quiet for a long moment, swirling his whiskey. My mother's last words were about wanting me to be happy. For the first time in 3 years, I'm actually trying to honor something she wanted, instead of just surviving. Maybe that's selfish. Maybe I'm using you to feel less guilty, but I meant what I said. I won't let anyone hurt you. Even though this is temporary? Even though in 6 months I walk away? Even though. He met her eyes. You're under my protection now. That's not temporary, Kioma. That's permanent. Long after we divorce, if anyone tries to hurt you because of your connection to me, they'll answer for it. The intensity in his voice made her shiver. That's very Korean Mafia of you. I am very Korean Mafia. You should probably remember that. But he smiled when he said it, just a little. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be overwhelming. Stylist in the morning, meetings with my attorneys in the afternoon to discuss the engagement announcement, dinner with some of my business associates in the evening. You'll be on display. I need you ready. Kioma stood. Minjun, your mother was right about you. You did forget how to be human. But I saw you remember, just for a moment when she died. Maybe that's what she really wanted. Someone who'd remind you that you're more than just the family business. He stared at her. Something vulnerable crossing his face before he locked it down. Maybe, or maybe she just didn't want me to die alone. That too, probably. Kioma moved toward her room, then paused. For what it's worth, I don't think you're a monster. Dangerous, yes. Complicated, definitely. But not a monster. You might change your mind about that, he said quietly. Once you really know what I've done. Then I guess we'll see. You promised me honesty, remember? All of it, even the ugly parts. I'm starting to regret that promise. Too late now. She smiled. Good night, Minjun. Good night, Chioma. She closed her bedroom door and leaned against it, heart pounding. This was her life now. Designer clothes and security details, and learning to kiss a crime boss convincingly for cameras. It was insane. But as she looked around the beautiful room with its orchids and soft bed and view of the city, she couldn't quite bring herself to regret it. Not yet, anyway. Seoul was nothing like Lagos. Chioma pressed her face to the private jet window as they descended, watching the city spread below like a circuit board of lights and geometry. Everything looked so organized, so clean, so impossibly different from the chaotic sprawl she'd left behind. First time in Korea? Minjun asked from across the cabin. He'd been working on his laptop most of the flight, speaking in rapid Korean to various people on calls. Business that couldn't wait, even for his mother's funeral. First time anywhere outside Nigeria. Chioma sat back, trying to calm her nerves. The stylist had dressed her in an elegant black suit that probably cost more than her old monthly salary. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. She looked like someone who belonged on a private jet. She felt like an imposter. My family will be at the funeral. Aunts, uncles, cousins. They're going to have questions about you, about us, about how a Nigerian nurse became engaged to me so suddenly. What do I tell them? The truth, mostly. That you cared for my mother in her final hours, that she chose you, that I'm honoring her wishes. He closed his laptop. They'll assume it's strategic, a business arrangement. Let them think that. It's safer than them believing I actually care about you. Do you? Care about me? The question surprised them both. Minjun looked at her for a long moment. I don't know you well enough to care yet, but I'm starting to think I could. That terrifies me more than any business rival ever has. The honesty made Chioma's chest tight. Why terrifying? Because caring about people in my world gets them killed. My father cared about my mother, and she spent 30 years looking over her shoulder. I care about you, even a little, and you become a target that my enemies will use without hesitation. So, better to keep distance? Keep it fake? Smarter to. But I promised my mother I'd try. Try to be human again. Try to let someone in. He stood as the plane began its final descent. So I'm going to try, Chioma, even though it's probably going to end badly for both of us. The funeral home was in Gangnam, a district Minjun explained was Seoul's wealthiest area. The building was modern and austere, all clean lines and expensive materials. People in black filled the rooms, speaking in hushed Korean. They all turned when Minjun entered, and Chioma felt the weight of 100 eyes assessing her. An elderly man approached, his face deeply lined but his posture military straight. He spoke to Minjun in Korean, his tone sharp. Minjun responded calmly, then switched to English. Uncle, this is Chioma Okafor, my fiancé. Chioma, this is my father's brother, Han Jae-sung. The uncle's eyes raked over her with obvious disapproval. Nigerian, he said, making it sound like an accusation. Your mother chose a Nigerian nurse to be your wife? This is what grief does. Makes people foolish. My mother was many things. Foolish wasn't one of them. Min Jun's voice dropped to something dangerous. You will speak of her with respect, and you will treat my fiancé with the same courtesy you'd show any member of this family. She is not family. She will be. That makes her untouchable. Spread the word, uncle. Anyone who disrespects Chioma answers to me personally. The threat hung in the air. Jae-sung's jaw tightened, but he nodded stiffly and walked away. Chioma exhaled slowly, realizing she'd been holding her breath. I'm sorry, Minjun said quietly. My family can be difficult. He hates me, and we just met. He hates anyone who isn't Korean. Don't take it personally. He placed his hand on her lower back, guiding her through the crowd. Stay close to me. Smile politely. Don't engage if someone's hostile. I'll handle it. The next 2 hours were a blur of introductions and thinly veiled hostility. Minjun's aunts examined her like livestock, commenting in Korean that they probably thought she couldn't understand. A cousin asked point-blank how much Minjun was paying her. Another suggested she was a gold digger, taking advantage of a grieving man. Through it all, Minjun stayed beside her, his presence a shield. He never raised his voice, but the quiet authority he commanded made people back down. Even those who clearly disapproved didn't push further once he made his position clear. Mrs. Han's body lay in an open casket dressed in traditional Korean hanbok. She looked peaceful, younger somehow, without the pain that had marked her final days. Kioma approached and bowed the way Min Jun had taught her on the plane. "I kept my promise," she whispered. "He's not alone." "She can't hear you, you know." A woman's voice, speaking English with a Seoul accent. Kioma turned to find a stunningly beautiful Korean woman in an expensive black dress. "The dead don't listen. They just leave us to clean up their messes." "And you are." "Park Ji-woo, Min-jun's ex-girlfriend. We dated for 2 years before he decided the family business was more important than relationships." Ji-woo smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm surprised he's getting engaged. I didn't think he was capable of commitment anymore." "People change. Do they? Or do they just find new ways to use people?" Ji-woo stepped closer, her voice dropping. "Let me give you some advice, Kioma. Min-jun is a black hole. He'll take everything you have, every piece of yourself you're willing to give, and it still won't be enough. His mother knew that. Why do you think she was so desperate to find someone for him? You sound bitter. I sound experienced. There's a difference." Ji-woo glanced at Min-jun, who was deep in conversation with several older men. "I loved him once, really loved him, but loving someone who's already married to violence and power? That's not love. That's self-destruction." "Is that why you left?" "He left me. Emotionally, long before we actually ended things. I was just smart enough to walk away before I lost myself completely." Ji-woo's expression softened slightly. "You seem nice. Really. So I'm telling you this as a kindness. Run. Take whatever money he's given you and run. Because 6 months from now, a year from now, you'll be standing where I am, alone and wondering why you thought you could be the one to change him." Before Chioma could respond, Min-jun appeared at her elbow. He looked at Ji-woo, and something passed between them. History, pain, recognition. "Ji-woo, I didn't know you were coming." "Your mother was always kind to me. Even after we ended, she'd call sometimes, just to check in." Ji-woo's voice wavered slightly. "I'm sorry for your loss, Min-jun. She deserved better than cancer." "She deserved better than a lot of things." His hand found Kioma's, threading their fingers together. "Thank you for coming." Ji-woo looked at their joined hands, and something like pity crossed her face. "Take care of yourself, Kioma. You're going to need to." She walked away, leaving tension in her wake. Min-jun's grip on Kioma's hand tightened slightly. "What did she say to you?" "That you're a black hole. That I should run while I still can. That loving you is self-destruction." Kioma looked up at him. "Is she right?" "Probably." He didn't look at her, keeping his eyes on his mother's casket. "Ji-woo was good for me, patient, understanding, willing to overlook the blood on my hands, and I destroyed her anyway. Not intentionally, just by being who I am." "What happened?" "I chose business over her one too many times, canceled dates for meetings, left her alone at events to handle crises, came home covered in other people's mistakes, and expected her to pretend she didn't notice." His voice was flat, emotionless. "She gave me 2 years, then she gave me an ultimatum. Her or the family business. I chose the business." "Do you regret it?" "Every day. But I'd make the same choice again. That's what makes me a black hole. I know what I am and I can't change it." Kioma squeezed his hand. "Your mother didn't think you were beyond saving. That has to count for something." "My mother saw what she wanted to see. She saw her little boy, not the man I became." He finally looked at Kioma, and his eyes were empty. "You should run, you know. Ji-woo's right about that. You should take the money and disappear before I drag you down too." "Is that what you want?" "What I want doesn't matter. It never has." "That's not an answer." Min-jun was quiet for a long moment. Around them, mourners moved through the funeral home, paying respects, speaking in hushed tones. Finally, he said, "No, I don't want you to run. I want you to stay. I want someone in my life who isn't afraid to call me out, who sees the black hole and stands at the edge anyway. But wanting that is selfish. It puts you in danger. So what I want and what's right are 2 different things." "Let me decide what's right for me," Kioma said firmly. "I'm not Ji-woo. I'm not some fragile thing that needs protecting from you. I walked into this with my eyes open. I know what you are. And I'm still here. For 6 months. Then you leave. Then I leave. But until then, I'm here. So stop trying to push me away and let me do what I promised your mother. Let me remind you that you're human, even when you don't feel like it." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite hope, but close. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, the gesture formal and old-fashioned and surprisingly tender. "You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish," he murmured against her skin. "Can I be both?" "I suppose you can." He lowered her hand but didn't release it. "The service starts in 30 minutes. After that, there's a reception at my family's estate. More introductions, more scrutiny, more people trying to figure out if you're a threat or an opportunity. Which am I? I don't know yet, but I'm starting to think you might be the most dangerous thing that's happened to me in years." "Dangerous how?" "Dangerous because you make me want things I gave up on wanting. Things like normal, like happiness, like a future that isn't just surviving until the next crisis." He touched her face just briefly. "My mother knew exactly what she was doing when she chose you. She was giving me one last chance to be something other than my father's son." "And are you taking it? The chance?" "I'm trying." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "God help us both, I'm actually trying." The funeral service was conducted in Korean with an English translator for Kioma's benefit. She listened to people speak about Mrs. Han's kindness, her strength, her devotion to family. She watched Min Jun sit stone-faced through it all, not a tear, not a crack in his composure. Only his hand in hers, gripping tighter during certain stories, betrayed any emotion. When it was his turn to speak, he stood and addressed the crowd in Korean. Kioma couldn't understand the words, but she heard the pain underneath them, heard the way his voice broke just once before he controlled it, saw the way people's faces softened as he spoke about his mother. Later at the reception, an elderly woman approached Kioma. She spoke in halting English. "You are the nurse, the one who was with her at the end." "Yes, ma'am. Minjun's mother, she called me. The day before she died, she said she found someone special for her son, someone who had kind eyes and a strong heart, someone who wouldn't run from his darkness." The woman touched Kioma's arm. She was happy. In her last days, knowing you would be with him, she was happy. "Thank you for giving her that peace." The words hit Kioma harder than expected. She'd thought of this as a transaction, a business arrangement that helped them both. But Mrs. Han had died, believing her son would have someone who cared, died with hope instead of worry. The weight of that responsibility settled on Kioma's shoulders. She wasn't just playing a part for 6 months. She was honoring a dying woman's final wish, and somehow that mattered more than the money ever could. They stayed in Seoul for 3 days after the funeral. Min Jun's family estate was a sprawling traditional Korean house in the mountains outside the city, all wooden beams and paper screens and carefully maintained gardens. It was beautiful and isolating in equal measure. Kioma had her own room, separate from Min Jun's, connected by a shared sitting area. The first night, she lay awake listening to unfamiliar sounds, wind through pine trees, the creak of old wood settling. Somewhere in the distance, Min Jun moving around his room, unable to sleep either. Around 2 in the morning, she heard it, a sound that made her chest constrict. Crying, muffled, like he was trying to hide it, but unmistakable. She should have stayed in her room, should have given him privacy. But something pulled her out of bed, across the sitting area to his door. She knocked softly. "Min Jun?" The crying stopped immediately. Silence. Then his voice, rough and controlled. "Go back to bed, Kioma." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You're crying." "I said I'm fine." Sharper now, defensive. Kioma tried the door. Unlocked. She pushed it open and found him sitting on the edge of his bed, still fully dressed, face in his hands. The moonlight through the window cast shadows across his shoulders. "I told you to go back to bed. I don't take orders well. Ask anyone who's ever employed me." She crossed the room and sat beside him, not touching, just present. "You don't have to pretend with me. Not here, not now." "I'm not pretending. I'm holding it together." "Why? There's no one here but me. You don't have to be the untouchable crime boss. You just buried your mother. You're allowed to fall apart." Min Jun laughed, a bitter sound. "Men in my position don't fall apart. We can't afford to. Show weakness and someone's there to exploit it. Always." "I'm not someone. I'm the woman your mother chose. The woman you promised to marry. That has to count for something." He looked at her then, really looked, and his eyes were devastated. I can't do this. Can't play strong when I feel like I'm breaking. Can't pretend I'm okay when every room in this house reminds me she's gone. Then don't pretend. Just be broken for a while. I'll sit with you. Something in him crumbled. He reached for her and she went, letting him pull her close. His arms wrapped around her waist, his face pressed against her stomach, and he shook with sobs he'd been holding back for days. Kioma held his head, running her fingers through his hair, and let him break. They stayed like that for a long time. Eventually, the crying subsided into ragged breathing. Minjun pulled back, wiping his face roughly. I'm sorry. That was unprofessional. We're not at work, and even if we were, grief doesn't follow professional boundaries. She touched his face, turning it toward her. Your mother loved you. That much was obvious, and she wanted you to be happy, not strong. There's a difference. I don't know how to be happy anymore. I'm not sure I ever did. Then learn. You have 6 months with someone who has no expectations of you beyond honesty. Use it. Figure out who Minjun is when he's not performing for everyone else. He caught her hand against his cheek. You're dangerous, you know that? You make me want impossible things. Like what? Like this. Someone who sees me at my worst and doesn't run. Someone I can be weak with. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Jiwoo was right. I am a black hole. But you're standing at the edge and I can't make myself push you away. Then don't. Stop trying to protect me from yourself and just let this be what it is. And what is it? Kioma didn't have an answer. They stared at each other in the moonlight, and something shifted. The air between them felt charged, heavy with possibility. Minjun's hand slid from her cheek to her neck, gentle but intentional. Tell me to stop, he whispered. Why would I do that? Because this is a terrible idea. Because we're supposed to be fake. Because getting real makes everything complicated. Maybe I like complicated. Her heart was racing, but she didn't pull away. Maybe complicated is more honest than fake ever was. He kissed her, soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Kioma kissed back, her hands finding his shoulders, steadying herself against the rush of feeling. It wasn't the performative kiss she'd imagined for cameras. This was real, raw, desperate in a way that had nothing to do with desire and everything to do with need. Minjun pulled her onto his lap without breaking the kiss, his arms tight around her waist. Kioma's fingers tangled in his hair, and she let herself feel it. The want, the fear, the impossible connection forming between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Minjun rested his forehead against hers. This changes things, he said. I know. We can't go back to fake after this. I know that too. Are you scared? Terrified. You? More than I've been in years. He kissed her again, softer this time. Stay with me tonight. Just sleep. I don't want to be alone. Kioma nodded. They shifted under the covers, still fully clothed, and Minjun pulled her against his chest. His heartbeat was steady under her ear. Grounding. Real. Thank you, he whispered into her hair, for not running, for being here, for making me feel human again. That's what you're paying me for, remember? I'm not paying you for this. This is something else entirely. Kioma didn't disagree. She closed her eyes and let herself drift, wrapped in the arms of a man who was supposed to be temporary, but was starting to feel dangerously permanent. Morning came too early. Kioma woke to find Minjun already awake, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. How long have you been staring at me? She asked, her voice rough with sleep. Long enough to confirm you snore. I do not. You definitely do. It's cute. He brushed hair from her face. We should talk about last night. Should we? Or should we just let it be what it was and not overanalyze? I'm not good at not overanalyzing. Comes with the job. He sat up, putting distance between them. I promised you 6 months of fake. Last night wasn't fake. That's a problem. Why is it a problem? Because real means risk. Real means I could hurt you. Real means when you leave in 6 months, it's going to destroy me, and I can't afford to be destroyed. I have responsibilities, enemies, a whole empire that depends on me being functional. Kioma sat up too, pulling her knees to her chest. So what are you saying? Last night was a mistake? I'm saying I don't know what it was, but I know it can't happen again. Not if we're going to survive this arrangement intact. The rejection stung more than it should have. Fine. Professional distance. Got it. Kioma, don't do that. Don't shut down. What do you want from me, Minjun? You kiss me like I matter, then push me away saying it's for my own good. You tell me I'm dangerous because I make you want things, then decide those things are too risky. Pick a lane. I can't. That's the problem. I want you close and I want you safe, and those two things are mutually exclusive in my world. Stop deciding what's safe for me. I'm a grown woman. I can assess my own risks. Can you? Do you understand what getting involved with me really means? The violence, the betrayals, the constant threat? It's not romantic, Keoma. It's ugly and brutal, and it ruins people. Your mother survived it for 30 years. My mother paid for it every day, lived in fear, looked over her shoulder, never knew peace. You think I want that for you? I think you're scared. Not of your enemies, but of actually caring about someone. So you're pushing me away before I can hurt you first. Keoma climbed out of bed. Well, congratulations. Message received. I'll stay in my lane, play my part, and leave in 6 months exactly as planned. No complications. She headed for the door, but Min Jun caught her wrist. Wait, please. For what? Another speech about how dangerous you are? I've heard it, Min Jun. From you, from Jiwoo, from your uncle who thinks I'm not good enough to breathe the same air as your family. I get it. This is a bad idea. But I don't need you to protect me from yourself. I need you to be honest about what you want. I want you. That's the honest truth. I want you in a way I haven't wanted anyone in years, maybe ever. But wanting you and being good for you are different things. Let me decide what's good for me. What if I can't? What if the only way I know to care about someone is to push them away before I destroy them? Keoma softened slightly. Then you learn a different way. You practice letting someone in. You trust that maybe, just maybe, I'm strong enough to handle whatever comes. Min Jun pulled her closer, his hands framing her face. You're asking me to risk the one good thing I have left. No, I'm asking you to stop running from it. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no careful distance, just need and want, and the terrifying leap of actually letting someone matter. When they broke apart, both breathless, Min Jun kept his forehead pressed to hers. Okay, he whispered. Okay, we try this. Real, not fake. But you have to promise me something. What? If it gets too dangerous, if loving me starts to destroy you, you tell me. You don't suffer in silence like Jiwoo did. You tell me and we figure it out together. I promise, but you have to promise me something too. Anything. Stop trying to protect me from yourself. I'm here. I'm choosing this. Let me choose it. I'll try. I can't promise I'll succeed, but I'll try. They spent the rest of the morning in his room talking about nothing and everything. Keoma learned that Min Jun had wanted to be a pianist before his father's death forced him into the family business, that he still played sometimes, late at night when he couldn't sleep, that his mother used to make him japchae every birthday, and he hadn't eaten it since she got sick because it reminded him too much of better times. Min Jun learned that Keoma had dreamed of becoming a doctor before money ran out, that she sang in the shower but nowhere else, that she missed her mother's ensala soup more than anything else about home. They learned each other, slowly, carefully, like people who knew they were building something that could either save them or ruin them completely. Around noon, there was a knock on the door, one of Min Jun's men speaking urgent Korean. Min Jun's expression changed immediately, shutting down into business mode. What is it? Keoma asked. We need to go back to Lagos now. There's been an incident. What kind of incident? Min Jun was already moving, grabbing his phone, issuing orders in rapid Korean. The kind that means someone's testing my defenses, and they chose to do it while I was distracted by grief and a beautiful woman. That was their first mistake. The cold efficiency in his voice reminded Keoma exactly who she'd gotten involved with. This wasn't just the grieving son or the man who'd kissed her like she was oxygen. This was the crime boss, the black hole, the man who'd inherited an empire built on violence. Min Jun, what's happening? He looked at her, and his eyes were arctic. Welcome to my world, Keoma. I hope you meant it when you said you could handle it, because we're about to find out. The private jet flew through turbulence that matched the storm in Min Jun's eyes. He'd been on the phone for 3 hours straight, switching between Korean and English, his voice getting colder with each call. Keoma sat across from him, trying to piece together what had happened from his side of the conversations. Someone had attacked one of his warehouses in Apapa. 3 of his men were in the hospital, 2 were dead. The shipment they'd been guarding was gone. which apparently mattered less than the message the attack sent. Someone was declaring war. "The Zhao family," Minjun finally said when he ended his latest call. His jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. "Chinese syndicate that's been trying to muscle into West African shipping routes for 2 years. They waited until I was vulnerable, until I was distracted, and they struck." "What are you going to do?" "What I have to do. Send a message back that's impossible to misunderstand." He poured himself whiskey, even though it was barely noon. "I'm sorry you have to see this side of things. The side my mother hated. Your mother knew what you were. Knowing and witnessing are different. She spent 30 years turning a blind eye to my father's business, then to mine. It killed her slowly, I think, the knowing without acknowledging." He downed the whiskey in one swallow. "You won't have that luxury. You're about to see exactly what I am when someone threatens what's mine." The cold rage in his voice made Kiyoma's skin prickle. "What happens when we land? You go to the penthouse with armed security. You don't leave, you don't open the door for anyone except people I've personally cleared. I go handle this situation before it escalates further." "Handle it how?" Minjun looked at her, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. "However necessary. And Kiyoma, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to do, the calls I'm going to make, the orders I'm going to give, they're going to involve violence. Real violence. People will get hurt. Some might die. That's the world you're in now." "You're trying to scare me again." "I'm trying to be honest. You asked for honesty, remember? Well, here it is. I'm about to go to war over a warehouse and 2 dead soldiers, because if I don't, every syndicate in Lagos will think I'm weak, think they can take from me without consequence. So I have to respond with overwhelming force. I have to be the monster everyone fears, and I need you to decide right now if you can live with that." Kiyoma's hands were shaking, but she forced her voice steady. "Do what you need to do. Just come back alive." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or relief. "You're really not going to run, are you?" "I told you I wouldn't. I meant it. You're either insane or the bravest person I've ever met. Can't I be both?" She reached across and took his hand. "Minjun, I'm not naive. I know what you are. But I also know you held me last night like I was something precious. You cried in my arms. You let me see you broken. That person exists too. So go be the monster for your business. Then come home and be human with me." He raised her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles hard enough to bruise. "If something happens to me, there's a safe in my office. Code is 0947, my mother's birthday. Inside are instructions for my lawyer, bank accounts in your name, and enough evidence to bring down half my organization if you need leverage. Take the money and disappear. Start over somewhere safe." "Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me anyway. Promise me if things go wrong, you'll save yourself." "Minjun." "Promise me, Kiyoma. I can't walk into this unless I know you'll survive it." She swallowed hard. "I promise. But you promise me something too. Don't be reckless. Don't throw your life away because you're angry. Your mother didn't save you from loneliness just so you could get yourself killed. I'll be careful." He pulled her closer, kissing her forehead. "As careful as I can be while making sure everyone knows what happens when they touch what's mine." They landed in Lagos at sunset. The city sprawled below them, familiar and foreign at the same time. Kiyoma had only been gone a week, but it felt like months. She was different now. The woman who'd left Nigeria was a nurse playing dress-up. The woman coming back was a crime boss's fiancé who'd just promised to stand by him while he went to war. Minjun's security team met them on the tarmac. 8 men, all armed, all wearing expressions that said they were ready for violence. Minjun spoke to them in Korean, then pulled aside a tall man with a scar across his left cheek. "This is Tai Yang. He's head of my personal security and the most competent person I employ. He'll take you to the penthouse and stay with you until I get back." "How long will you be?" "However long it takes. Could be hours. Could be days." Minjun cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Don't wait up. Don't watch the news. Don't worry." "That's like asking me not to breathe." "Then worry quietly and safely." He kissed her, hard and desperate, like he was memorizing the taste of her. When he pulled back, his eyes were fierce. "If anyone tries to get to you, if anyone even looks at you wrong, Tai Yang has orders to shoot first and ask questions never. You understand?" That seems excessive. That's survival. The Zhao family knows about you by now, knows you're my weakness. They'll try to exploit that if they can. He kissed her again, softer this time. Be safe, be smart, and know that every decision I make tonight is to keep you protected. Then he was gone, climbing into a black SUV with half his security team. The vehicle sped away into Lagos traffic, and Kioma was left standing on the tarmac with Tae Young and 3 other guards. Miss Okafor, Tae Young said in heavily accented English, we go now. Not safe to stand in open. The drive to Ikoyi was tense. Tae Young sat beside her while 2 guards took the front seats and 1 more followed in a second vehicle. They moved through traffic with aggressive efficiency, and Kioma noticed Tae Young's hand never left his weapon. Has this happened before? She asked. Other syndicates attacking? Yes, always happens. Someone gets brave, thinks they can challenge Han family. Min Jun shows them why that is mistake. They don't try again. Tae Young's expression was grim. But this time is different. Zhao family is big, organized. They have resources. This will be war, not just message. How long have you worked for Min Jun? 8 years. Since his father died and he took over. Tae Young glanced at her. You are first woman he brings into this life, first woman he protects like this. That means something. What does it mean? Means you are weakness and strength both. Weakness because enemies will use you. Strength because men fight harder when they have something to protect. He paused. Just don't break his heart. He has survived many things. I don't think he survives that. The penthouse felt different when they arrived. Mrs. Park was there, but so were 4 additional security personnel stationed at various points. The place that had felt like a luxury apartment now felt like a fortress. Miss Kioma, Mrs. Park said, wrapping her in an unexpected hug. I heard about attack. You must be frightened. I'm okay, just worried about Min Jun. He is his father's son. He knows how to handle threats. You eat something. Worry is easier on full stomach. She guided Kioma to the dining room where she'd already prepared jjigae and rice. Eat, then rest. He will come home when it is finished. Kioma tried to eat, but everything tasted like ash. She kept checking her phone, but Min Jun hadn't called or texted. The hours crawled by. 8 p.m. became 10, became midnight. Still nothing. She tried to sleep but gave up around 2 a.m. Instead, she found herself in Min Jun's office, staring at the safe he'd told her about. 0947. His mother's birthday. She didn't open it. Opening it felt like accepting he might not come back. Around 3 a.m., her phone finally rang. Unknown number. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a voice, male, speaking English with a Chinese accent. You are Min Jun's woman, yes? The African nurse? Chioma's blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who wants to give you message for your boyfriend. Tell him Zhao family does not fear Han family anymore. Tell him we know his weakness now. Tell him he has 24 hours to withdraw from Apapa ports, or we kill everyone he loves, starting with you. The line went dead. Kioma stood frozen, phone shaking in her hand. She should call Tae Young, should tell security, should do something. But her body wouldn't move. Someone had just threatened to kill her, really seriously threatened her life. This was real. All of it was real. The office door burst open and Tae Yang rushed in, weapon drawn. I heard phone ring. Who called? Zhao family. They know about me. They threatened to kill me if Min Jun doesn't back down. Tae Young cursed in Korean and immediately started making calls. Within minutes, the penthouse security doubled. Chioma was moved to an interior room with no windows. Mrs. Park appeared with tea and worry etched into every line of her face. This is bad, Mrs. Park said quietly. Very bad. They should not know about you yet. Someone talked. Someone in Min Jun's organization gave information to enemy. What does that mean? Means there is traitor. Means Min Jun's problems are bigger than just Zhao family. She gripped Kioma's hands. You must be very careful now. Trust no one except Tae Yang and me. Even people who work for Min Jun could be bought. Chioma's phone rang again. Min Jun this time. Are you okay? His voice was rough, urgent. Tae Yang said Zhao called you directly. I'm fine. Scared, but fine. Min Jun, they know about me. How do they know about me already? Because someone in my organization is feeding them information. I have a traitor close enough to know about you, about us, about my movements. The rage in his voice was palpable. I'm coming back, right now. I'm not leaving you unprotected while I hunt Zhao. No, you said yourself you have to respond. You can't show weakness. I don't care. They threatened you. That changes everything. Minjun, listen to me. You have security here. I'm safe. But if you back down now, if you come running home because they scared me, that's exactly what they want. They want you weak, distracted, emotional. Don't give them that. Silence. Then, you're really not going to run, are you? Even now, with death threats and traitors and everything going to hell? I promised I wouldn't. I keep my promises. She took a shaky breath. But I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll end this. Whatever it takes, however brutal it needs to be, you end it so thoroughly that no one ever threatens us again. Us, he repeated softly. You said us. That's what we are now, isn't it? We stopped being fake somewhere between Seoul and here. So this is us. And if someone threatens us, you make them regret it. I love you. The words came out raw, unplanned. I know it's too soon and too fast and probably the worst timing possible, but I love you, Chioma, and I'm going to burn down everyone who even thinks about hurting you. Chioma's eyes filled with tears. Don't say that just because you're scared. I'm saying it because it's true. Because I finally found something worth protecting, and I'll be damned if I let anyone take it from me. His voice dropped to something deadly. Tell Taiyang to lock down the penthouse. No one in or out except people I've personally vetted. I'll be back before dawn, and when I get there, we're going to have a very serious conversation about what happens next. What does happen next? Next, I make an example of the Zhao family that everyone in West Africa will remember for the next decade. Next, I find my traitor and deal with them personally. Next, I make sure you never have to be afraid again. He paused. And then, if you still want me after seeing what I'm capable of, we figure out what this thing between us actually is. I already know what it is. Yeah? What's that? It's real, messy and dangerous and probably doomed, but real, and I'm not running from it. God, you're incredible. Terrifying and incredible. She heard voices in the background, someone calling for him. I have to go. Stay safe. Trust Taiyang. And Chioma? Yeah? When I get back, I'm never letting you out of my sight again. The line went dead. Chioma sat in the windowless room, surrounded by armed guards, waiting for the man she'd somehow fallen in love with to come home from war. And for the first time since this entire insane situation started, she understood what Min Jun's mother had seen in her. She wasn't someone who ran when things got hard. She was someone who stood her ground, even when the ground was soaked in blood and violence. She was someone who could love a monster and see the human underneath. She was exactly what Min Jun needed, and terrifyingly, he was becoming exactly what she needed too. As outside, somewhere in Lagos, Min Jun was making good on his promises, making examples, sending messages, being the black hole that swallowed everything that threatened what was his. And Chioma waited, knowing that when he came back, everything would be different. They'd crossed a line tonight, said things that couldn't be unsaid, become something that couldn't be undone. 6 months suddenly felt like nowhere near enough time. Min Jun came home at dawn covered in other people's blood. Chioma was still awake, sitting in the living room despite Taeyang's protests that she should rest. She heard the elevator, heard the security codes being entered, and then he was there. His white shirt was ruined, his knuckles split and bruised, and there was a darkness in his eyes that made her breath catch. Is any of that blood yours? She asked quietly. No. He stood in the doorway like he was afraid to come closer. I need to shower, clean up. You shouldn't see me like this. Too late. I already see you. Chioma stood and crossed to him. Up close, she could smell gunpowder and smoke and violence. She should have been repulsed. Instead, she reached up and touched his face. Did you end it? Yes. The Zhao family won't be a problem anymore. Their leadership is either dead or running back to Guangzhou. Their operations in Lagos are finished. His voice was flat, emotionless. I also found my traitor, one of my father's old lieutenants who thought he could sell information and retire wealthy. He was wrong. Is he dead? Does it matter? I suppose not. She took his hand, the one with split knuckles, and led him toward his bedroom. Come on, you need to clean up. Chioma, I just killed people. Multiple people. You should be horrified. I am horrified. I'm also relieved you're alive. Apparently, I can feel both things at the same time." She pushed him toward the bathroom. "Shower. I'll be here when you're done." He stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language, then nodded and disappeared into the bathroom. Chioma heard the water start and sank onto his bed, adrenaline finally crashing. Her hands were shaking. She'd just touched a man covered in blood and felt nothing but relief. What did that say about who she was becoming? 20 minutes later, Min-jun emerged in clean clothes, hair damp, looking exhausted. He stopped when he saw her still sitting on his bed. "You're still here." "Where else would I be?" "Running, screaming, calling the police. Any normal reaction to what I just told you." He sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. "I murdered people tonight, Chioma. Personally. Not ordered from a distance. I looked them in the eyes and I killed them. And I'd do it again without hesitation because they threatened you." "I know." "That doesn't terrify you?" "It should. But all I feel is grateful that you're safe. That we're safe." She turned to face him. "Does that make me a monster too?" "No. It makes you someone who's been forced to adapt to an impossible situation. And I hate that I did that to you. Hate that I've pulled you so deep into this world that you're becoming numb to violence." "I'm not numb. I'm horrified. But I'm also in love with you, and love makes people accept things they never thought they could." The words hung between them. "You said it first on the phone, but I need you to know I feel it too. Somewhere between your mother's deathbed and tonight I fell in love with you. The whole you, monster and human both." Min-jun's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You can't love me. I'll destroy you. Maybe. Or maybe we'll destroy each other and build something new from the wreckage." She took his hand. "I'm done pretending this is temporary. Done pretending 6 months and a divorce was ever going to be enough. So I need to know right now. Are you in this for real? Because I am. I'm all in, Min-jun. The violence, the danger, the beautiful disaster that is your life. I want all of it." "You're insane." "Probably. But I'm your insane. If you'll have me." He pulled her into his lap, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. His face buried in her neck, and she felt wetness against her skin. He was crying, she realized, silently, desperately, like a man who'd been holding back for too long. "I don't deserve you," he whispered against her skin. "I don't deserve anything this good." "Neither do I, but we have each other anyway, so what are we going to do about it?" He pulled back, cupping her face in his hands. "We're going to do this properly. No more fake engagement, no more 6-month expiration date. I'm going to marry you for real, make you my wife in every way that matters, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the fact that you chose me." "Is that a proposal?" "It's a promise. The proposal comes later, when I can do it right, with a ring and romance and everything you deserve. But right now, I need you to know that you're mine, really mine, forever mine, and I'm yours. Every dark, broken, violent piece of me belongs to you." Chioma kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it, all the fear and relief and love and terror. Min-jun kissed back with the desperation of a man who'd just survived a war and found something worth surviving for on the other side. They made love slowly, carefully, like they were mapping new territory. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss was a claim. When they finally came together, it felt like recognition, like two broken pieces discovering they fit perfectly. Afterward, they lay tangled in sheets, watching dawnlight filter through the windows. Min-jun traced patterns on her skin, his touch reverent. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly, "about what comes next. The business, the family, all of it. Okay? I'm stepping back. Not completely, but enough that I'm not the one making every decision, handling every crisis. I have people I trust. I'm going to let them handle more so I can have this. Have you. Have a life that's more than just violence and survival. Your family won't like that. My family doesn't get a vote. My mother's last wish was for me to be happy. I'm finally going to try." He kissed her forehead. "But I need you to understand that stepping back doesn't mean stepping away. I'll always be connected to this world. There will always be risk, always be danger. Can you live with that?" "As long as you come home to me, I can live with anything. Even knowing that loving me might get you killed? Even knowing that, because loving you also makes me feel alive for the first time in years. I'll take dangerous and alive over safe and numb any day. Minjun smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his face. My mother was right about you. You're exactly what I needed. What's that? Someone who sees the monster and loves me anyway. Someone who stands her ground when everyone else runs. Someone who makes me want to be better while accepting exactly who I am right now. Your mother was a smart woman. The smartest. She knew I'd fall for you before I did. He pulled her closer. Thank you. For not running. For staying. For loving me when I gave you every reason not to. Thank you for letting me in. For being honest. For trusting me with all your broken pieces. They stayed in bed until noon, talking about everything and nothing. Chioma learned that Minjun wanted children someday, that he'd always dreamed of opening a music school, that his favorite color was the exact shade of purple in his mother's orchids. Minjun learned that Chioma wanted to go back to school, that she missed dancing even though she hadn't danced in years, that she'd always wanted to see the northern lights. We'll go, he promised. Anywhere you want, everywhere you want. I'll take you to see the whole world. I just want to see it with you. Around 2 p.m., Mrs. Park knocked on the door with food and knowing looks. You two finally stop being stupid and admit feelings, yes? Yes, Mrs. Park, Chioma said, blushing. Good. About time. His mother would be very happy. She set down the tray. Eat. Then Mr. Minjun has visitors. Business that cannot wait. The business turned out to be Minjun's remaining lieutenants, gathering to discuss the aftermath of the Zhao situation. Chioma sat beside him during the meeting, not understanding all the Korean, but understanding enough. The message had been sent. The Han family was not to be challenged. Peace, at least temporarily, was restored. That evening, they had dinner with Ada and Ngozi. Her sister and cousin had been calling non-stop since the attack, and Chioma knew she owed them an explanation. They met at a restaurant Minjun owned, private room, heavy security. So, Ada said, looking between them. You two are really together? Like, actually together, not fake. Actually together, Chioma confirmed, lacing her fingers through Minjun's. And you know he's basically a crime lord? Ngozi added. I'm very aware. And you're okay with that? Chioma thought about everything that had happened. The death threats, the violence, the fear, but also the love, the protection, the feeling of being seen and chosen and cherished. I'm more than okay. I'm happy. Ngozi shook her head but smiled. You're insane. But if you're happy, we're happy. Right, Ada? Ada studied Minjun carefully. If you hurt my sister, I don't care how many guards you have. I will find a way to make you pay. I would expect nothing less, Minjun said seriously. And I give you my word. I will spend the rest of my life making sure she never regrets choosing me. See that you do. But Ada was smiling too. Later, back at the penthouse, Chioma stood at the window overlooking Lagos. The city glittered below, millions of lives being lived in blissful ignorance. She'd been one of those lights once, anonymous, safe, unremarkable. Now she was standing in a crime lord's penthouse, wearing a ring Minjun had placed on her finger during dinner, planning a future she'd never imagined. Regrets? Minjun asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Not one. You? Only that I didn't meet you sooner, that we wasted time pretending this was temporary. We needed that time, needed to figure out if this was real. And now that we know it is, Chioma turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd threatened her life and then given her his heart. Now we live it, messy and dangerous and real, together. Together, he agreed, and kissed her as the city lights sparkled around them like promises. 6 months had become forever. The fake engagement had become the realest thing in either of their lives. And somehow, against all odds, the nurse from Lagos and the Korean crime lord had found exactly what his mother had wished for them. They'd found each other. And that, Chioma thought as Minjun carried her to bed, was worth every risk she'd taken. Thank you so much for joining us on Chioma and Minjun's journey. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Archie Love Stories for more premium Afro-Korean romance content. Share this with someone who loves epic love stories that defy all odds. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale of passion, danger, and love that conquers all. Until next time, keep believing in love that breaks all the rules.